million extension. The mega deal tops Mike Trout money and includes a record $65 million signing bonus. So, Tom, let's start there. Mookie hasn't played a game yet for the Dodgers. You surprised they gave him such a large contract before he's even taken the field?
I'm not really surprised. This is equivalent if you go to buy a new car and you take a test drive and you love it so much you're sold before you even leave the dealer's lot. That's what happened with the Dodgers and Betts. Once this guy got in their camp, I'm talking about spring training in March and certainly recently in summer camp, they just loved everything about Mookie Betts. Yeah, they knew he was a good player, but seeing him up close every day, they were so impressed. This guy's bat-to-ball skills are freakishly good. Other than that, he's just a good teammate. He's working with the young hitters there. He's a great defender. They feel like he can play multiple positions anytime down the road. So this made a lot of sense for a team that tried to step up, remember, and sign Garrett Cole. I know the Dodgers until this point had not given out a $100 million deal, which is kind of crazy when you think about their market. But they did try to get Cole. Cole had his heart set on the Yankees. This was plan B, Betts, to go get Mookie in the trade. And I think all along they wanted to extend him. But again, once they had him in their camp and saw the kind of person and player he is, done deal.
Tom, shortly after the dust settled on the Betts trade, there were these, I don't even want to call them rumors, murmurs I'll call them, that, yeah, listen, the Red Sox traded him, but he's going to come back. He's going to play 1 year for the Dodgers, and he's going to come back, sign with Boston.
It's a valid thought.
Now that we officially know he, of course, is not going to do that, he's staying with the Dodgers, how would you put a final cap on the Red Sox trade and their decision? I know they got off the price money, but to move on from a homegrown guy who, at worst, is a top 3 player in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in the face of it, I mean, you think Mookie Betts in Boston, drafted in the 5th round, by the way, that should have been a career-long player in Boston, right? Retire the number, the whole 9 yards. But I think once they tried to extend him about a year and a half ago, they just didn't get a good vibe that it was going to happen. And more importantly than that, in the last year or so, they were up against the CBT, the competitive balance tax. This was a way to reset the tax rate by getting rid of both Price and Mookie. Yeah, it's a business decision. They had a lot of money coming down the road, but I think in a perfect world, sure, they wanted to keep Mookie Betts, but I think they realized probably a year and a half ago the long-term marriage just wasn't going to happen.
You know, Tom, it's unfortunate that I can't go to Fenway because I was going to bring a sign that said, we reset the tax rate and show that up. So that's what I'm really rooting for. We reset the tax rate, everybody. Look, I think this is I'm happy for Mookie Betts. It is a nightmare for Red Sox fans to have, like, the best homegrown player since Carl Yastrzemski leave. I'm not necessarily frustrated. I'm more angry. Is there any optimism that you can give me, like, hey, the Red Sox did the right move? Like, just give me some optimism besides the tax rate of what the Red Sox have coming to sort of dry my tears here.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, if you're an accountant or you like projecting forward 5 years from now, you'll say it was the right move logically. But no, as a fan, I mean, again, Mookie's the kind of player. I think he's one of the top 5 players in baseball. He represents any franchise really well. So, you know, it's a tough blow for the Red Sox fans, especially now that he's in L.A. for essentially the next 13 years. That team, folks, is loaded. I'm not talking about just this year. First of all, that offense this year, I think, could be the most devastating offensive team since the '99 Indians. Remember, there's the DH now in the National League. So you got Mookie, you got the DH, this incredibly deep roster. So the Red Sox fans are going to have to watch Mookie in the postseason a lot in the future, not just this year.
That's right. I'm happy for
All right,
that.
Tom, so if Mookie Betts' deal, sorry, I don't know if that was the answer you were looking for there, Wilds, but just deal with it. The Red Sox lost Mookie Betts. That's how it's going to be for the foreseeable future. So if Betts' deal is sort of setting the standard, I got to ask you about my Yankees and Aaron Judge. He's next in line to get paid here. What does that mean now for what happens coming down the line for Aaron Judge?
Yeah, he's 3 years away, so there's not a lot of urgency. I would say the next big name coming up is Francisco Lindor. He's a year away. He's basically in the position Mookie was in last year, where a trade probably looks inevitable. To see if there's a trade and sign or wait till free agency. But Judge is an interesting case because he's a little bit older as a college player. in the major leagues now. You know the injury history. I set all those things aside. This guy is so valuable to the Yankees franchise, they must make sure he never wears another uniform. I mean, first of all, he's made for Yankee Stadium. His numbers in Yankee Stadium are just crazy, the way it's pop flies out to right field. But more than that, I mean, people go to the ballpark to see Aaron Judge. Maybe not this year, of course, but I think he's the kind of Yankee that fits in with all the rest of them, the Derek Jeters of the world, who play their entire career in pinstripes. He's the most popular player probably in baseball when you look at jerseys that are sold. TV ratings, once I checked this with the Yankees, the ratings actually go up when Judge is at bat, and they go down after the at-bat is over. He's just somebody people want to see, and I think the Yankees have to make sure that, again, he wears nothing but the pinstripes for the rest of his career. That might not happen for another year or two, but I don't think this guy's going to get to free agency.
Yeah. All right, Tom, obviously the regular season in baseball, the abbreviated regular season starts today. Postseason will start in a couple months, but all of a sudden, I don't know what that postseason is going to look like. I read last night reports in not literally the 11th hour, but almost literally the 11th hour, they might actually do the playoff expansion. Like, explain to me what is happening behind the scenes and how realistic is it that we're going to have a 16-team postseason in baseball this year?
I think there's a good chance it's going to happen, Nick. This is something that was on the table back in March. It was one of the provisions that went away as the negotiations fell apart last month. But I think it's something that makes sense for the players. Think about it. There's 156 more players that would get into the postseason this year if the playoffs are expanded from 10 teams to 16 teams. But on top of that, you're talking about an additional $300 million in television money just this year alone. And, Nick, I know when you get your refund check from the IRS, you don't put it in your passbook savings account. You go out and spend it. That's what happens when owners get more TV money. They spend it. So this will help inform the free agent market this year and years ahead. So I think this is going to happen. Now, they have to get it done before the first game, which is tonight, as you mentioned, in Washington. But I think in the last couple of days, well, I know there's been momentum to get this deal done. Now, I'm not sure what's going to be the back and forth. People just don't give up negotiating chips. But I think it's something that clearly makes sense for both sides, and that's why I think it's going to happen.
Tom, what do you think happens to the Blue Jays? The Pennsylvania said you can't play where the Pirates play. I heard Camden Yards. I heard Buffalo. And is this more of a logistical challenge or also like a competitive challenge if they're on the road the entire year?
I got a backyard they can use if they get stuck. Listen, I think it's a problem that is both short-term and long-term. I don't think they're going to play 60 games on the road, a 66-day road trip. I don't think that's going to happen. What they may have to do is find some place in the short term so they can upgrade their ballpark in Buffalo. That's where their AAA team is. And that ballpark right now does not have major league standard lighting or clubhouse facilities. So if you know a good contractor, let the Blue Jays know they can work on upgrading that facility. And in the meantime, I think they're going to play a bunch of games on the road. You know, they've talked with the Rays. They've talked with the Orioles. Obviously, the Pirates shared system didn't work out there because of concerns about coronavirus, the spreading in Allegheny County. But this is a real issue. I just don't see them playing a 66-day road trip. I think probably fixing the ballpark in Buffalo might be an answer, but that would take about 2 or 3 weeks. So at least there's some hope that this thing will get resolved so that they're not on the road for every game.
Hey, Tom, I haven't had nighttime plans since quarantine started, but tonight we get some baseball back. I'm super excited. My Yankees are playing the Nationals. I've been reading about Garrett Cole. He's been excited. He didn't know when baseball was going to start. He's been practicing as if it was always going to be tomorrow. He's got some excited jitters. Talk to me a little bit about what your expectations are for the Yankees. It's a shortened season, which doesn't always bode well. They don't have the luxury of getting off to a slow start, but where do you see the Yankees falling this year?
Well, as you know, this was the best offensive team in baseball last year. They had some injuries. If they can keep Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez and Giancarlo Stanton, the three of those players, healthy through 60 games, my goodness, they will be fun to watch. And now you add in Cole. I mean, the Astros were 50-15 when Cole started a game for them. It's almost win day when he gets the baseball. But more than that, this guy is super competitive. Typically, a guy free agent gets to New York, there's a tremendous amount of pressure to produce. I'm talking about right off the bat. There's a level of accountability for big-time free agents who come to New York that's not there anywhere else. That's not going to bother this guy, maybe partly because there's nobody in the stands.